So, social media is full of people with opinions. Social media is a highlight reel. Social media has lots of opportunities for education, entertainment, and I'll call them false prophets. Social media is also a great space for support if you know where to look. Hi, this is Elisa. This is Food Noise Be Gone, episode 14. If you don't know me, I am on a weight loss journey for over a year. I've lost over 100 pounds or 800 pounds and counting. And yeah, we just check in every week here. We do a new episode on a new topic. We're going to spend today talking about what I think some of the best social media accounts are, YouTube channels, Instagram, not as big on TikTok, but almost everybody has a relatively similar presence or handle on the platforms. Social media has a lot of people out there just trying to make a buck, looking for an opportunity. Some people who have genuine experience and are taking that as an opportunity to further themselves, to have a side hustle. There are so many motivations out there. It's hard to know who to trust, where to look. Personalities, people, channels, all of that. I'll give you kind of a little insight into what you see out there, what to look out for, who to trust, and what I recommend. Always remember, if you have any questions about your healthcare, please contact a professional healthcare provider. This is my experience. I am just sharing my experience for basically education and entertainment purposes. Please remember to subscribe, like, comment. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. We publish every Saturday on YouTube and Sundays on Spotify and Apple. So let's talk about what is the best place to get your information about weight loss, GLP-1s, all the things. I'm going to focus on kind of where I go and where I center my media on. First, let's start with YouTube. One of my favorite YouTube channels is The Downsized. Is a couple, they've lost 150 pounds combined. I think the husband has lost 100 pounds and the wife has lost 50 pounds. Together they are The Downsized. They started their channel. They're on a GLP-1 journey. They include news, they include interviews with doctors, they include interviews with real patients that have been on this journey, generally speaking, on a GLP-1. I think they're a really great resource. They have a good community. Definitely, I would give them a 10 out of 10 recommend. I will include them and all the folks I subsequently talk about here in the show notes. So that's probably, I think, one of the top YouTube channels. The second YouTube channel I'm going to bring up is On the Pen. That is Dave Knapp. He is he was known, I think, initially as Man on the Manjaro, and then he has the OTP or On the Pen is his mark, and I think it's On the Pen Official on the various channels. He's on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. He has a Substack. There's both a free and a paid option on the Substack. I definitely support him. He comes with great news. He's always like the first one to share the news of what's coming from the pharmaceuticals, the legal and court cases. He has people on from both the community as well as professionals and various doctors. So yeah, he's, I would say, the number one news source. If I was going to pick that's his niche, is news, and definitely top shelf. Another interesting podcast that I really enjoy them. They're slightly, I would say, less formal. They're called The Plus Sides, ends with a Z. They have a podcast and YouTube channel, I believe. Um, they share, I would say it's more very similar in like updates, very grounded in their personal stories. And I think they're, a great, I think Kim talks about like, multiple, multi award winning. I'm not sure what awards they've won, but I just think that they're like very grounded in both their own stories and bringing the story of what it means to be going through this journey and what's next. So yeah, I really like them. In the podcast realm, I would say my one of my favorite podcasts is there's two that I think are great. One is the Weight Medicine podcast with Emma. She started her own, I think it's in Sweden. Anyway, she just expanded it to more of a global audience and is interviewing people from around the world that are on this journey, weight medicine, GLPs. She herself is mid-journey. I've been on her podcast. She's great. She again will have nutritionists, other professionals, as well as people going through it with their own stories. So I think it's a really great combination. She's really easy to talk to, and it's one of the best podcasts out there. So again, the plus size and on the pen also come out on podcasts, but the weight medicine podcast is a podcast in and of itself, and I think is one of my favorite ones. My number two, I would say even maybe tied for first, is the Docs Who Lift. Now, the Docs Who Lift are their two brothers. It is Dr. Spencer Nadolski and his brother Carl Nadolski. Dr. Spencer is an obesity specialist. He founded joined Vineyard, that is my obesity care providers, and his brother is an endocrinologist. Anyway, they're these old muscle guys from wrestling back in college, and they very much are kind of founded in like strength, and then of course they're doctors. So they talk to a bunch of really cool people. They span topics, definitely a lot of centered on GLP-1s, but not exclusively. They'll talk about creatine as a supplement. They'll talk about, do things have, are there studies, scientific backup, definitely grounded in science. So they definitely will have researchers and whatnot on their podcast. They'll also, I think one time I listened to a debate. Yeah, so I think they would be my second favorite podcast. And I also would, if we're going to switch over to Instagram, I love to follow Dr. Spencer. I think he goes by Dr. Nadolski, and Summer the dietitian. Now they both are part of Join Vineyard. I would say they're my favorite accounts, and they are the ones that actually convinced me to join Vineyard for my obesity care. And they're some of my favorite folks to follow on Instagram. There's a bunch of doctors that I think are really great. I'll just include them in the show notes, but they're my top two healthcare providers. Dr. Spencer is obviously an obesity care doctor, and Summer the dietitian is a dietitian. She's published a few books, so I definitely would recommend those. Now, I mentioned Substack, so maybe I should include that in all the things that I'm recommending. Dave obviously has his Substack on the pen. The community, the support community that I also belong to is hosted by Nick. She has the GLP-1 Girl Code kind of brand. She has changed her handle a couple times, but she just launched a Substack. She has great journals or articles that she publishes. I definitely like her Substack as well, so I definitely would recommend that, in addition to Dave's. So those are great. She also has a YouTube channel. I'll make sure and link that. In fact, I found her and her community through her YouTube channel. That was my entry point. And she also has an Instagram, right? Like I said, almost everybody has a presence on each of the social medias. But I would say for her, I would recommend her Substack. She also publishes, I think, at least one episode of her YouTube channel to a GLP-1 Girl Code podcast. So again, everybody's multimedia now, so there is that. But like for Nick, I think her Substack is her winning media, or the best media that she has. And then if as we kind of turn the corner over into Instagram, my coach I found through, so who's a nutritionist and personal training coach, basically a personal coach. I call her my weight loss coach. She posts a lot of content about natural foods. My anti-inflammatory life is her handle. It used to be CGO of me, or Chief Girl Officer. But anyway, she switched to my anti-inflammatory life. I believe she also has Mel's Easy Eats, or Mel's something eats. They're basically the same content. And she's great to follow for ideas on whole foods. Whole foods are some of the best way to make sure you have nutrient rich, large portions. It's very hard to not get full eating whole foods. I do not eat all whole foods. I eat a lot of whole foods, and it definitely cuts down your inflammation the more whole foods you eat. So yeah, she's great to follow, and she has great advice. I've credit her, obviously, and my obesity care providers with a lot of the success I've had. She's helped me add little habit by little habit. So definitely a big fan of Mel's. So yeah, those are the podcasts, the YouTube channels, the Substacks, the Instagram handles. Those are kind of how the core base of who I follow. I should also mention Shelby at the Thinner Side. She both has a Substack, and I really enjoy her content on Instagram. She really came on after she had lost her weight, but she has a great perspective on things, and she's definitely very much an advocate for, I think we all know by now, taking a GLP-1 is not taking the easy way out. It is medical care for disease. And yeah, so she's one of my favorite folks to follow. She also has her own community. I've been a part of that for a while. It wasn't where I fit, but I think it's great that she has that. And I just overall really enjoy her content. So yeah, so I think that's about it. So we have, everywhere from the downsize, the plus size, the weight medicine podcast, the GLP-1 Girl Code, Nick over on Substack, on the pen, Spencer Nadolski joined Vineyard, and Summer the Dietitian. Those are kind of the core folks that I really enjoy, and that I would say those drive my FYP. I follow a ton of other folks on Instagram. I follow folks even if I don't agree. Like, I'll be honest, I am not a big fan of the GLP-1 compound. I take it, link in my bio or comment, whatever, and I'll send you the link. The whole peptide, obviously not a fan of gray market. I just don't love the whole influencer piece from a trying to sell people not actual FDA approved medication. Don't love it. I'm not a big fan of the whole thing. I choose to get name brand medication and go to actual just doctors that practice obesity medicine. That is my choice. I understand. I understand the side hustle. I do understand social media. I just think in the medical realm, it is too close or over the ethical line, and not something that I am personally a fan of, or would I do that? So you will not ever see me posting, like, saying, here's my code for a GLP-1 provider. That's just not my shtick. Some of the people I mentioned here may actually do that, but I would say I recommend them because I know they're above board. I know they've lived the actual real experience, and they are not just another influencer getting a commission. In fact, I know that they don't get like a kickback per person they refer based on who they go through. I'm sure they've been through all that, right? There's definitely some shady business in this world. Some people you can trust and some people you can't. So the people that I've recommended here, they're all people you can trust. Doesn't mean that they aren't affiliated with a telehealth and may also market these things. But I would say these people I personally recommend and I think are all have some experience and grounding either in the medical profession or actually been through this obesity journey and have the disease of obesity. So I think when you have lived experience, nothing beats it. And this is just, I think, a really important space. I have just a little corner of the world with a few subscribers, but if I can point everybody to people and spaces that are trustworthy, then I feel like I've done my little contribution of things. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great week. I will see you next week.